Welcome to the Content Magazine podcast, conversations with Silicon Valley's creatives. I'm Daniel Garcia, your host and the cultivator of Content Magazine published by SV Creates.
Hello?
Today we talk with Massimo Chisessi. He's the marketing director for San Jose Jazz. Hey Massimo, how you doing?
Hey Daniel, I'm doing okay. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Welcome to the Content podcast.
Thank you.
How long have you been the marketing director in total time? I know you had a little wayward years.
Well, I started as a contract marketing manager in 2011 for the 2011 Summerfest. And then I was made director that October. And I did leave for a year and a half around 2015, 2016 to take another opportunity. But, you know, as it turned out, I just really didn't like it. It wasn't really for me. And at the same time, San Jose Jazz lost my replacement. So Brendan Ross, and the executive director there, asked me if I would consider coming back. And I said, heck yeah, because I really, really missed it.
Yeah. I mean, you do such a great job. There's so many programs. And then I always appreciate your visual aesthetic that make the festival, I think, especially for, here in the South Bay, one of the, nonprofit organizations that has probably some of the best artwork and look, in my personal opinion. No offense to other people I might interview later, but but you do such a great job. I really appreciate it.
Oh, that's really nice of you to say, but I have to say that you've kind of helped me along the way with a lot of referrals and all that. I think my first graphic designer that I used, Morgan Smale.
Yeah.
I discovered him through Tommy Aguilar.
Oh, yeah.
Tommy Aguilar had used him, and I said, "Hey, Tommy, who did this incredibly cool thing for you?"
Yeah.
And he told me. So, but then a lot of later things, you've influenced me a lot and given me a lot of referrals.
Yeah, well, that's funny.
You're part of my success.
Well, you were making the final decision, so you're really the art director, so you get the credit. Now, with this latest situation in the world, the sheltering and no events, running an organization and being involved in an organization like San Jose Jazz affects a lot of your musicians, right? So what's been kind of going on recently with San Jose Jazz in that aspect?
It has been a really, really difficult year so far, and it's not just COVID-19, it's AB 5, the new California labor law.
Right.
And sort of accompanying, new regulations about how jobs should be classified. So, we've probably all heard about how that's affecting contract workers and people like musicians and visual artists, that it makes it very, very difficult for us to hire musicians just for single concerts and just for a few concerts and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So, we had to adjust to those new laws and work to get our progressions education program instructors on payroll and do all sorts of things like that. And so it continues to affect how and who we hire. So that's been more difficult for me.
Yeah.
Let's say, just to be honest, we're kind of wrestling now over the guy who has actually designed the website I have now and has continued to update that website. So he actually now has a full-time job, and he just basically moonlights with a few, organizations like ours.
Yeah.
And so we have a dilemma. We need certain proofs that he can be classified as a contractor, or he needs to go on the payroll, and he may or may not want to go on the payroll. So,
right.
That might lead me to go to a different person, or it may lead me to have to go to a firm, which would be at significantly higher cost. So that's been really a difficult thing to deal with, and we're continuing to deal with it. And then we had this pandemic arrive and shut everything down completely. And so we had to cancel all of our programs, of course, and we're all working from home now. And the same for artists. And you can just imagine musicians are, a lot of them I don't know, to backtrack a little bit, San Jose Jazz, we are a nonprofit organization, and we're supported by members and foundations and grants and some ticket sales for our largest event, the Summerfest. But we don't have a huge budget for artists, so we tend to focus on being really smart in the marketplace and looking for musicians that are on their way up, that are about to break. And we've been really successful at that in the past. Bruce Labadie, our artistic director, brought us Thundercat before he blew up. He brought us Kamasi Washington before he blew up. And so, the artists that we know and we work with, they're generally not rolling in dough, and they're generally kind of working from paycheck to paycheck, from gig to gig. And so they've had 6 months of gigs canceled because people can no longer put a summer tour together because it's so uncertain whether or not those tours can take place. So it's really, really a tough situation for musicians right now.
Now, I noticed that you guys pretty quickly pivoted and had, Jackie Gage was in concert. I think Bennett did something, right? So you kind of did some online in their homes, right? So tell us about that and how were you able to get that up?
I would say that's something I'm really excited about. As many difficulties as this crisis has brought to all of us and to me and as many difficulties as it has brought, it's brought opportunities too. And we saw that a lot of musicians were kind of doing live streams on their own. So I created this program called Live from Home. And made it regular with San Jose Jazz. So we're doing it every Monday and Thursday. And what I think is kind of unique to us is we set it up so we would do the live stream with them, and we would set up a donation website for them, or take their donation website and put it on screen while they're performing, talk about it in the chat portion of Facebook Live, and have them talk about it. So audiences that really love their music can support them directly.
Yeah, that's great.
And I haven't really seen another organization doing that. And, it sort of, achieves a couple of my aims. I want to continue to, produce content for our audiences. I want to stay connected with our audiences. But, another prong of San Jose Jazz's mission is to support the ecosystem of working artists, to make it possible for them to continue doing their work. And so this is a way that we can continue to do that. So I'm really, really excited about it. It's kind of the first time that I have really had the chance to curate on my own.
Oh, cool.
And and it's a lot of fun. I put out a lot of asks to some nationally known artists like Casa Overall and Jose James and people like that have not come through yet. But just in the next couple of weeks, we're going to have Kristen Strom and Scott Sorkin, her husband, performing together because they're quarantined together. And then Leland Kane is following her, and then Kim Daly and Tammy Hall, and then Ben Williams, who has played with Jose James and has played Summerfest several times as a supporting player, is going to do a solo show.
Yeah, that's incredible.
And then the Oakland singer Kev Choice is coming up too. So it's a lot of fun.
That's awesome. And then that's on the San Jose Jazz Facebook page. Is that how people view that?
Yeah, we're deploying it on Facebook Live and YouTube. So if you went to our YouTube channel, at youtube.com/San Jose Jazz, or the Facebook channel, facebook.com/San Jose Jazz, you would find it. There's also a live hub on our San Jose Jazz Facebook page. That lets you go to whatever current video is streaming at that point, and then all of our past videos are there as well.
Yeah, that's a great idea. It's so awesome that you're supporting the artist directly, not even trying to skim stuff off the top, And I know it's difficult for, smaller nonprofit organizations, but I mean, really the vision is and the mission is to help the whole ecosystem, right, of the creatives.
Yeah, absolutely, and it feels good to be able to do that, and the artists have really responded, and I think in another way it'll really benefit us later by just really creating stronger relationships with those artists.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, so talking about missions and stuff like that, what's your own personal kind of like mission in life or purpose or vision, would you say? And how does that affect the work that you do?
But I would say my personal mission in life is to create beauty,
Yeah. Okay.
and I've thought of that many times. And the people I kind of most key into and admire from history have sort of created beauty from nothing, you know, and I sort of seek to emulate that in everything I do. So,
Yeah.
I was a visual artist, I was a musician, I was a graphic designer, and I sought to create beauty with all those things. And I do that as a marketing director too.
Yeah.
I try to connect people with live music experiences that will move them and make a difference in their lives. And that really was the difference between the other job, which was at San Francisco Ballet. I was associate director of marketing there for a year and a half.
Yeah.
That was the difference between that job and San Jose Jazz, is that, the art of ballet is very, very refined and arcane,
Yeah.
and people enjoy it in a very kind of placid manner. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's intellectual.
Yeah.
Um, but the live music that San Jose Jazz presents, like jazz and blues and salsa,
Yeah.
they're not so much intellectual as they are visceral, and it's like night and day to see the kind of enjoyment and involvement that people take from the music that we present. And those are the headiest moments for me, is when I come into contact with that. Like when during our summer fest, I hear, thousands of people singing along with an artist.
Yeah.
Um, or I witness just an electrifying performance.
Yeah.
And I see the audience reaction.
Yeah.
Um, it's really, really kind of exciting and invigorating for me, and it's kind of what propels me.
Yeah. Well, you're also able to put together the experience, right? So as a visual artist, so even doing a festival, right? You're thinking about the person's enjoyment from the moment they buy the ticket to where they're walking through where the different stages are, right? As well as the music, as well as the marketing materials, So it really is kind of bringing together a bunch of your different talents, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I would say. And then also just experience with the different art forms and experience at, different arts institutions. I think I can, I bring to that. I've worked at a lot of different, I've done arts marketing for, you know, more than 20 years, probably much more than 20 years, or more than I would want to confess.
Right.
Um, but I've worked for, as I said, I've actually worked for a couple ballet companies. I worked for Ballet San Jose a long time ago
Yeah.
when that was around, and I've worked for Montalvo Art Center. So
Yeah.
that's a multidisciplinary art center.
Yeah.
And I worked for San Jose Museum of Art, and each one was kind of a different situation, but each position involves, kind of engaging people directly with an art form, and a slightly different art form and a different audience. So that gives me a perspective now when I'm helping to plan a festival experience.
Yeah. Do you want to share anything about what is going on personal life? This kind of shut in last few weeks or anything like that?
You know, I don't know. I hesitate to say that my experience has been worse or,
Hmm.
you
Right.
know, different than most people, because we're all going through the adjustment of having to work from home, having just sort of this low level fear of being infected by this thing, and how that acts on your psyche.
Right.
I for example, recently, I remember seeing on Facebook, there was a story about, this young, fit man got the virus and then died in 2 days, And so then I read those stories and I start to feel a sore throat.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
um, and I have to like talk myself down for that and say, just wait till tomorrow.
Yeah.
Take your temperature and wait till tomorrow.
Yeah,
But
we go out for a walk, and then I come back home and I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm coughing
what did you
more.
touch?
You know,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah. And so as a result, I've only been out of the house 4 times since this whole thing started. So that's in 2 weeks.
yeah,
I've been out of the house 4 times, and that was once to the store, the grocery store, and I wore gloves. And when I got home, I wiped everything down with alcohol.
yeah.
And then once to the pharmacy. And the other 2 times were related to a funeral. So the weird thing that's happened to me during this time is my father passed away.
Yeah.
And he passed away, I guess, on the 12th of March.
Yeah.
So it's really given kind of a new resonance to me, to being alone in his home, and being completely alone in his home, not seeing anybody in my space for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And so it's been a really, really kind of a weird, surreal experience for me. We also had a COVID-style burial, which was very surreal. I'll give you an example of how surreal it was. I was the last to arrive, and there was a guard at the gate of the cemetery. He says, he tells me to go pull over inside the cemetery, and somebody will come and get me. So a truck came, and the truck led me to the cemetery, even though I knew where it was. I mean, led me to the burial place, even though I knew where it was, because he wanted me to park in a certain spot. So I parked behind all of my other family members, or at least the 7 of us that were allowed to attend.
Yeah.
And they were already there, and they were there at their seats that were all 6 feet apart.
Yeah.
And they were all 20 feet from the gravesite. And when the time came for, the final burial to take place, like when they lower the casket down, they made us go sit in our cars to watch that. So I was like 80 feet away, which was very surreal and kind of unnecessary, I think, but, everybody is sort of reacting to this differently, and everybody has sort of a different line of what is safe to them.
Yeah.
And they made that difficult choice to, I guess, protect their workers.
Yeah.
But it didn't stop it from being, kind of surreal and unpleasant for me.
Yeah, I would imagine so. I mean, that time, right? You want the closeness of others. I mean, to lean against, your brother or your aunt or an uncle or,
Yeah, and I would want my father to be honored, for the great man he was and the great father he was.
Yeah.
And we couldn't really do that, except, we could. Just the few of us could do it, and we did.
Yeah.
But it does feel weird to have to defer that experience of, celebrating what his life was about,
Yeah.
Family and being responsible for us and providing for us and guiding us in life. That was his deal.
Yeah.
He was a great dad.
Oh, I'm sorry for your loss, and at least
well,
you can have a celebration, later, to bring people together, right?
Yeah, absolutely, and we're planning that. I'm looking forward to that. The thing that I feel positive about is that he had a really, really long, healthy life.
Yeah.
He had a great life.
How old was he?
He was 95.
95, yeah.
Yeah, and he had been healthy, really healthy, up until maybe the last 8 months of his life.
Yeah.
And even then, he really just had kind of tiredness issues.
Yeah.
And so he couldn't walk very far and things like that. But he could enjoy his family. His mind was solid.
Yeah.
He could, do kind of the intellectual things he enjoyed to do.
Yeah.
And the same with my mom. She was 97 when she passed away.
So she was older than your dad?
Yeah, kind of unusual for that time.
Yeah.
She was old. She was the older woman.
And they both were in the service, right?
Yeah, yeah, they met at a USO in Paris, Texas
Oh, okay.
during the war.
So was it like
And
one of those the dances that they have for the officers and
yes,
oh,
yeah,
just
yeah, and
like a movie?
they were both lieutenants.
Oh, okay.
So I think it was the special officers level dance.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of. I've always been fascinated by that period of their lives. Just kind of like our time now. I mean, I think our time is a time of intense change. If you think the change that came from the internet coming in
Right.
was something, I sort of think that the era that we're on the cusp of is going to be an even greater time of change, because I think it's really going to change how we live our lives.
Yeah. Well, it's
I think
interesting even too with this kind of shelter in place and what's happening with the digital. What does that mean even as we go forward? Like what, for San Jose Jazz with concerts that are happening in artists' homes, is that going to be something that people are going to want more? So is that going to, what's going to be the new industries that kind of change and move out of this time? And then with AI coming up and VR, or it's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, I think so too, and I really believe that people are going to get more and more comfortable now with virtual experiences, and whether or not I would say that they would like them, I don't think I would go as far as to say they will like them
Yeah,
better, but I think that they will accept them,
sure.
and of course they'll be less expensive.
Yeah, yeah,
So I think that they will accept them. I mean, I'm a great believer in the live music experience. It's amazing the communication that can happen between a performer and an audience
yeah,
that never happens from listening to a record.
yeah,
So I think there will always be a place for live performance and a special place for that. But I think people will accept the virtual more and more.
yeah,
But the one thing that I really hope, that comes out of this time is that I think for the first time ever, well, definitely in my lifetime, it's the first time I've seen a shared global experience.
yeah. Isn't it
And
incredible?
yeah, it's incredible. And it's a shared global trial. And I think it illustrates for people how interconnected we are. And I've seen a lot of really positive responses to that.
Yeah,
And my hope is that it will help the world come together and help the world kind of move forward together on issues like climate change, things that are facing all of us.
yeah. That's what I was thinking. I was telling somebody, it's like, somebody in a remote city on the other side of the world ate, I guess, ate like an infected bat, and then that ripples throughout the rest of the world. I said, talk about your butterfly wings, right? When you always hear the story of a butterfly wing goes and causes ripples. So we've seen
Mm,
that, you know.
yeah.
It's great to see. Yeah, I mean that's the thing too. I agree. It's wonderful, and I like people that are putting things. I've seen a couple people post things like, my parents, are here, in the came to the United States as refugees, and gave up their jobs, gave up their family, and all this kind of stuff. I can shelter in place for a couple months. You know what I mean? Giving that kind of
Hmm.
perspective. At the
Hmm.
same time, though, I mean, it is interesting because it's not really. It is difficult, of course, for people that are losing jobs, but for the most part, most people, it's like you're kind of just staying home. We still have running water, we still have electricity, we still have food that's being delivered to the stores. So it's a really interesting struggle, in some aspects. I think that you did have a unique experience with your father passing away during this time, that I think makes it, yeah, a deeper memory, right? And pain that'll be associated with this than probably a lot of other people would.
Yeah, I would say deeper. I don't think I'd use the word pain though. I just would
Yeah,
think it just feels more resonant.
yeah,
It's more kind of fraught with meaning for me,
yeah, yeah,
because it's reflective of that other loss. That um,
yeah,
I guess that's how I would put it.
yeah. Well, I do appreciate you being able to share about your personal life. And again, thank you for all the work that you do with San Jose Jazz, the creativity and the quality that you bring.
Well, thank you. Thank you for saying that. And thank you, Daniel, for everything you do to bring us together, bring the creatives in Silicon Valley together.
Well, you're very kind. Well, hopefully we can be back in the offices together and I can steal some of your chocolate and we can have chats, hopefully sooner than later, right?
Yeah, but the chocolate's still there, so if you want to sneak in.
I might do that.
My door's unlocked.
You'll come back and there'll just be chocolate wrappers and chocolate fingerprints all over the place.
Or, I've been baking. So I made the first carrot cake of my life, and It is amazing.
Oh, okay.
It's
Good.
like one of the best things I've ever made. So if you want to stop by, I'll just put it on the porch.
Right. Exactly. Cool. All right, Massimo. Well, thank you very much. Again, I'm sorry for your loss, but thank you for what you're doing. And I'm sure I'll be talking to you again soon.
Okay.
Find out more about San Jose Jazz at sanjosejazz.org. In addition to publishing Content Magazine, SV Creates provides resources and training for the arts community. Each week we'll be checking in with Alyssa to see what's going on with SV Creates.
Hi everyone, this is Alyssa. I'm the program manager with SV Creates. On April 22nd, we're looking forward to offering a short webinar on crisis communications with Matt Lerman from Social Prosperity Partners. We're collaborating with Californians for the Arts and Theater Bay Area to bring you this free webinar. Check out our website and social media for links to register.
Cool. Thanks, Alyssa. Thank you for listening to the Content Magazine podcast. Please follow us on social media at Content Mag and subscribe by going to our website, content-magazine.com. This episode's music is Muddy Water from Sakura's 2020 release, Coming Home Soon. You can find Sakura on Spotify.